Hello, good evening, guys. If we could get settled down, we are going to start with introducing our candidates. Hi, so I'm Director of Communications, Kyrie Doniz, and it is my honor to introduce our candidates for tonight. We have presidential candidate Nicole Recio-Bremer and vice presidential candidate Sam Alt. And then we have presidential candidate Kevin Murphy with vice presidential candidate Manasvi Vantawa. So without further ado, I think we will start with their opening remarks. Right? Oh, give me a second. Ankita will speak.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to tonight's student government debate. So the debate format will include opening statements, a Q&A session, audience questions, and closing statements. Each candidate will have a maximum 5 minutes for their opening statement to introduce their platform and campaign points, as well as 5 minutes for their closing statement. During the first Q&A round, the moderator will ask candidates questions relevant to student government and their campaign platforms, and candidates will have 2 minutes max to respond to each question. The Attorney General will raise her hand to indicate the 30-second mark and will verbally call time. Candidates can also ask each other questions during the second Q&A round. The moderator will then take questions from the audience during the last round, and candidates will have 2 minutes max to respond to each question. Let's get started. So to determine who will go first for their opening statement, the candidates will play a game of rock, paper, scissors.
So whoever wants to.
Is it rock, paper, scissors, shoot, or do you do the whole? Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Okay. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Is it 2 out of 3?
2 out of 3.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Oh. That's good.
Oh, you want to go last? Yeah. Okay, so, yeah, you guys know?
Come on. Oh.
Is it on? Hi. Hi, I'm Manasvi. I'm Manasvi Vantawa, and I'm a junior here from Kathmandu, Nepal. And
I'm Kevin Murphy. I'm a junior, not from Kathmandu, Nepal. I'm from Geauga County, Ohio, about an hour west of here. Environmental science major, philosophy minor. Thank you everyone for being here. It's an honor for this opportunity, and I'm glad to see so many people here, and I look forward to the rest of what's to come.
Me and Kevin literally come from very different parts of the world, complete polar opposites, and we have a lot of distinct beliefs about life, about religion, about many things. And throughout our 2 years of friendship, we have always been able to find a very common ground and be able to communicate our ways and our understanding and learn with each other and from each other. And we think that it is very important for us to extend what we have learned to the real world. And we hope to extend this extension to our community here and build a community where we can have lots of common grounds and be able to find what we believe in and talk and have ample discourse about what we believe in and what we want to see and what we hope to change.
So basically the center, at least for me, of our campaign, why we're running, it's the student experience, the culture on campus. Like Manasvi was saying, we want to extend some of the things that we've learned just in talking to each other and talking to other people to the entirety of the campus. I think just in my time here, I've learned more and more that the culture on campus, the way people interact, the day-to-day experiences that people have are one of the most important parts of everyone's life. And important not just on sort of a more personal level, but also in terms of academic success and even the continued success of the institution. And we believe the ASG should take a central role in these parts of the student experience, including campus culture. And obviously we have certain ideas for a broad set of issues on campus, but that's the central focus. And that's why we're running. And in order to do that, broadly, I believe that some aspects of the structure of ASG and some of the policies that ASG operates under should be changed and amended or expanded in some cases so that ASG can play a more active role in areas that until now it's had definitely it's attempted to do and it's done good work in, but I believe could be expanded with a more comprehensive structure.
As an international student and coming from a very different background, it kind of hurts me to say that there is no other way of having a good communication or discourse between the gap between how we feel at home here. So our approach is to make ASG as inclusive as possible, where if it weren't for me running on this campaign, I would not have the opportunity or this voice to be talking. And it goes through a very bureaucratic way almost. So we want to break those barriers and have a straight form of communication between everyone and have this inclusiveness in a community, a sense of belonging, and where they can initiate, they can collaborate, and where we are the voice for them, and we can talk to them, not just for the voice for them, but raise their voices and have awareness, not just amongst the student body, but even the faculty and administration.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I'd say the liberal arts model of education is central to all of this. Like we've been saying, we've had experiences in and out of the classroom that have shaped the way we see the world, who we are as people, the way we understand our various subjects, and we want everyone to be able to experience the same thing. And we want ASG to take a central role in achieving that.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, the campus and ASG cabinet, for hosting this event. Kevin and Manasvi, thank you for being here this evening to engage in this discussion and debate for the continued prosperity of the student body. On behalf of Sam and I, it is a pleasure to be here tonight. This evening as candidates for your Allegheny student government, president and vice president. We are here before you tonight because we deeply love and respect our college community. Sam and I have worked very hard for the well-being and unity of everyone. Our deep and diverse connection to Allegheny has provided us the ability to see where we can grow as a college, community, and as a student government. Our experiences have shown us the importance of cross-campus collaboration in achieving significant change. The executives of Allegheny Student Government have a responsibility not to enact their personal will, but to build the manifestations of the student voice. We believe the most important ideal to uphold as president and vice president is that of protecting the spirit of shared governance embodied in our Constitution. ASG is more than just a legislative body. It is also the experience of what it means to be an Alleghenian. For this, I want to share a story with you.
The day that I was first sworn in as freshman class president, Nicole came up to me to welcome me to ASG and to tell me that she was looking forward to working together. While at the time, neither of us could have known that we would be here together today, working on what we're working on currently, it was my introduction to the potential for collaboration that ASG provides. In this conversation, Nicole told me that when she was a freshman representative, She had held herself to a higher standard than Constitution required and urged me to make the same commitment. That conversation has shaped the entirety of my experience here at Allegheny. I have gone beyond the expectations placed upon me through my commitment to representing the student experience to cabinet members, Aramark, and President Cole. I have found great meaning and enjoyment in doing this work that generates greater possibilities for contribution for those who come after me. Nicole and I come from vastly different experiences of life, yet we have come together in our love for serving our campus community. It is this love for all of Allegheny that drives us to do what we do and that shapes what we want to accomplish. As the debate takes off tonight, my hope is that you may be inspired to make your voice heard. The 2 tickets here tonight will have different goals and aspirations, but you have your own unique perspective and understanding of what you believe is important. We stand humbly before you as students working towards a campus where everyone has the power to be heard. Nicole and I recognize the possibility of student-led transformation on our college campus. We stand for the expansion of communication, student voice, and collaboration. We stand for enhancing the experience of what it means to be an Alleghenian. Let us work together to enter an age of communication, collaboration, and empowerment. Fellow students, I ask you to put unity first so that we can accomplish more together. Thank you.
Now we're going to move to the first section of our Q&A, where the moderator, Roman, will be asking the candidates questions on topics relevant to the student government and their campaign platforms. Each candidate will have 2 minutes each to respond to each question.
I don't know who we'll start with. It's on. Yeah,
Okay.
you're good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. We're going to cover a broad swath of topics tonight. So we're going to get started now. Nicole and Sam, you guys are going to go first for this round since Kevin and Manosfi went first for opening remarks. So the first question, all of these are from the student body. How will you ensure that all voices are heard in regard to student issues? You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, thank you for the question. And regarding student voice, we have different ideas within our platform. Some of them include college committees participation. As you may or may not know, there's 6 different college committees and that students are able to participate in with other faculty, staff, and members of the school. These college committees are encouraged for students to participate in order to have voice of the students in decision making, and they were initially created for that. So the implementation on having more people and following up on the participation within these college committees is essential, one of our essential points in order to increase student voice in decision making.
The other thing we really are planning on encouraging is open conversation with ASG, working with administrators as much as possible to have conversations with students about the work of certain offices and committees. The idea then being ASG would work in collaboration with, say, the head of the Campus Life and Community Standards Committee to have an open discussion outside of a closed room where people could come and raise issues or make comments that they may not otherwise have the platform to speak about, and just allowing everyone to have a voice in that way.
Thank you.
Ready? Yeah. So it's the way we would make sure all voices of all students are heard on all the important issues. We also have an emphasis on committees. Ours takes into account the fact committees already exist, and we have various ideas in place to actually make sure that committees remain filled, which involves some of my ideas to restructure ASG, which I'll get to in a minute. But apart from that, we would also just require direct public outreach from all ASG members, as well as public office hours on a routine basis from ASG members.
The idea is for us, our like kind of restructuring idea is that we're expanding onto the ASG members and senators. We have to commit towards the clubs and have build more better relationship with the board members. I've been a board member for 2 clubs, and none of the ASG members have ever attended our events, or most of them. We have the idea of holding lunch office hours where anyone can drop by on for a table, and we want to coordinate with the Idea Center and Student Life to know how we can make it more inclusive and what paths we can take that is most feasible to include every individual as well and not just clubs. And yeah, thank you.
So in short, I mean, this is probably a separate question in its own right, but I'll just give a brief overview. My idea of making sure that committees are filled involves expanding actually the number of positions in ASG and collaborating with academic departments to create independent studies or courses in departments like political science where people would participate in ASG and receive credit and apply their particular discipline to their time there in order to make sure that people are incentivized to fill all of the roles.
Thank you. I think we can just let them start this. Okay. The college administration has a bad reputation among students. How will you make sure that communication with the administration is positive and not just a litany of grievances brought against them?
Well, part of that comes from our increased direct outreach that we would have implemented from ASG members to the public. We would gather a larger amount of student feedback than has been taken in the past to see exactly what students have to say about administrators, what they think is the most important. And then we would also meet with administration, obviously hear their opinion on things, but we think the direct outreach, meeting with more interest groups on campus and facilitating that exchange would be a more efficient way of making sure that there aren't a lot of grievances, or there will obviously be grievances, but I think a lot of it comes from the fact that students feel like the administration isn't receptive to what they have to say. And if we were routinely taking what people have to say into account, giving it to the administration, and the administration that the student body felt that ASG and the administration by proxy were extremely receptive to what they had to say, I think that would actually help improve the reputation of the administration quite a bit.
The administration always, everyone at the administration level, like always feel and know that everyone thinks that they can replace the administration and do a much better job and know that they have ideas. Are we out of time? 30 seconds, okay. And the idea is that we just want to bridge this gap that we have and make our voices heard. And as Kevin said, we want to just not just report things, but have a conversation and even probably have a more an outreach where we have meetings with the administrations and be able to talk about certain points and see from their side as well about why the things that we are hoping for aren't being achieved. Thank you.
Public town hall meetings.
I'm sorry, your time's up.
Communication is first and foremost a relationship. It is impossible to communicate effectively through anger and without having forethought what you're going to be bringing forward in the conversation, particularly a meeting. Meetings and conversation and communicating with administrators particularly is a skill, and that is something that ASG should and does have expertise in. So our vision for what collaboration, as far as reaching out to and speaking with administrators, is we want to be seen as a resource. ASG is a resource for students who need to go to administration. The vision I have is that students would be able to reach out to a Senate member or a cabinet member and go, I need to talk about this issue, but I don't know what administrator is right, or I don't know how to do it exactly the best way. I don't know how to get the meeting with them. And ASG is then there to be like, we have a relationship with these administrators. We currently have a system of cabinet pairings where ASG cabinet members are paired with the president's cabinet. And so they have a built relationship with those people. And so the average student who's not in ASG can then reach out to ASG cabinet and senate to build upon their relationships to figure out how to best present their ideas and issues so that administration will be able to understand and act upon the issues, concerns, and ideas brought forth by the student body.
To add on to that, we are very thankful with the current cabinet and how they've already established these relationships with different organizations on campus. So just by continuing this, as Sam mentioned, and I've been in ASG so far 2 years, and I've noted continuous collaboration and an increase in the communication between the body and the student cabinet.
Thank you. What is the future of Silk under your presidency? You're good.
So first of all, I was vice president of International Club. I'm also an international student, and I've worked with Silk throughout numerous different platforms. And one of our points is collaboration and integrity. Diversity, equity, and inclusion also is within this statement that we want to foster this relationship with the Silk organizations. And at the end of the day, they're also, as in other clubs, part of this organization. So just fostering those relationships, continue to active listen to what their concerns are, and just be there as a net of support and listen to this, the clubs and organizations that are part of Silk.
Silk clubs are an important cornerstone of our college community, and they're not going anywhere. They deserve the utmost respect and protection, and I have no plans to allow anything against the will of the Silk clubs to happen to them. I respect their autonomy, and I know that there are current workings going on within Silk itself to better establish their own governmental proceedings. And I think that is wonderful and will be respected.
Can I go? As Sam said, it's very important, and Silk is a cornerstone of the school, and it's very clever. It's designed very cleverly because it's decentralized form of student bodies and individuals collaborating with one another. And so, since the Silk, the Idea Center has not been able to be as stable as we would like it to be, and is kind of finally on that path. We have some ideas that we've pitched to other clubs, board members, and we have an idea that Kevin would further explain.
Yeah, so part of this is a little bit related to how Silk would continue to function. Obviously, we would continue to support it. It's, like you said, it's critical to the campus in a lot of ways. One way we would help, something that we think would make the culture better in regards to Silk would be you'd have mandatory collaboration between the Silk groups on a time scale that we haven't agreed upon yet, but essentially all of the different clubs would have to collaborate with another Silk group and have a public event with basically be a blank slate for them to create whatever the two groups agree upon and share some kind of combined message to the student body.
So it would be more of an intra-club event where two clubs, let's say BIPOC, would collaborate with SAS, and they would come up with an event. And we can talk about how we can further discourse about how there isn't enough discourse in South Asia talking about queer culture or people. And so...
I'm sorry, your time is up.
Thank you. I didn't see the
Oh, no, actually, for me. Sorry. ASG's financial system is Byzantine and incredibly slow. ASG has also been without a dedicated bookkeeper for more than a year. How would you improve a financial system so that club finances are actually help students and not hurt them?
Thank you. As memory serves me correct, I think there's only one serving treasurer in ASG right now. And it's important to know that there's so many clubs and organization, and we need to have more people participating, and there needs to be a better communication between the treasurer. So we would not just rely on the treasurer, but other co-treasurers or other subcategories of the finance department of ASG. And we want a more systematic and cohesive communication between the finance board members, the treasurers of the board of any club and every club, to have a better communication, whether if it's weekly meetings. And Kevin.
Yeah. On top of that, I would say it's the time scale of the finances. I see it as a symptom of just a broader issue of difficulty filling positions in ASG and not enough student involvement. And I think our programs for increased recruitment to ASG could help lessen the workload of the people who are currently in charge of the finances, so that it could be done more smoothly, more efficiently, and with less stress for everyone involved.
And our idea of making a collaborative environment is that people who are in the accounting field who look forward to becoming a CPA, for example, 30-second CPA, for example, can have internship with the ASG and partner with the ASG on stuff like finance and budgeting, or talk with other clubs. And since this is going to be collaborative and conducive for their future and our future, and make it a more creative and collaborative environment that's conducive for everyone. Thank you.
So I appreciate that question, because so far this year we've seen numerous improvements in finance. I'm the current president for the class of 2025, and we've had a couple of tablings going on this past semester, and we've heard a couple of concerns regarding the guidelines and understanding them, and just going on how to submit a finance request, how guidelines are accessible, where to access those guidelines, and who to ask and who to go to. So by raising these concerns, we've done a couple of changes. For example, the finance request and the meetings that you have to go in and present your financial request essentially have been timed, so you don't have to sit there the whole hour and wait for your time to come. You instead get a time slot dedicated for yourself, where you go in, present your case, get advice, get just briefly like run down on what your finance request means and how to go on that. So there have been students raising concerns, and we've heard them, and we've done changes in order to facilitate the process for everyone.
In addition to the changes that have already been made, I think if we want the best solution to how to handle the finance request process, I think the best thing we can possibly do is hold a meeting with current and future club treasurers when they're determined, with the director of the treasury, the chief executive of ASG, and our advisor, the dean of students, and work collaboratively to figure out what questions need to be asked on a form and what needs to be asked in a meeting to make the most effective system for everyone involved, with everyone's input to create that.
Oh, no, you guys. Correct. Yeah. Okay. How would you work to promote diversity and inclusion in the student body and ensure that underrepresented and marginalized students are adequately represented and supported?
So we've touched on already the Silk organizations, what were the importance of them and what we think about them. Honestly, regarding student accessibility and diversity, equity, and inclusion, we're open. We are hosting office hours. There's a position in ASG dedicated for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So using that position in order to make everyone feel welcomed, supported, and heard is what our platform mainly is about.
Yeah, and there's always the question when it comes to diversity, equity, inclusion is who is on ASG. And so I think making sure that when there's recruitment happening, like at involvement fairs, when we're encouraging people to run for ASG, and when we're getting ready for Senate elections coming here after the presidential elections, just making sure that all groups on campus feel empowered to actually make a run for ASG and understand the impact that they can have on issues that they are passionate about, like diversity, equity, and inclusion.
So, one simple thing that we would start with is in talking to some students in the build up process to this election, we heard people say that there's no equivalent to the Title IX process for cases of discrimination, racial or other forms. And we would like to implement something like that for starters. Then, on top of that, we think this again gets back to our plan for heavier reliance on task forces with greater recruitment, because I think issues of diversity and inclusion are extremely complex, and the best way of solving it would be to incorporate a lot of interest groups beyond just ASG, including the Silk groups, which know obviously a lot about the topic, and academic departments involved.
As an international student, and I keep bringing this up, but I don't want to, but I didn't feel like I was very included in the community. And if it weren't for my initiative that I put forth of being involved in clubs or events, I would not have came this far. And I think it's important for us, the idea that we envision for this restructural program is just having a task force where we have a good amount of people who are initiative and reaching out to other people, and especially individuals individually one-on-one, which is the best way to make a communication and bridge this gap. So that's our idea of what we mean by the task force. Thank you.
What new methods will you use to help unify the divided campus community? What will be your follow-up methods when the administration shuts down a plan you had?
Sorry, could you go again?
Sorry.
Could you repeat the question?
Oh, yeah. What new methods will you use to help unify the divided campus community? What will be your follow-up methods when administration shuts down a plan you had?
You seem very confident about administration.
So you're saying we implement a plan and then administration shuts it down? Are you asking what's our plan A and then what's plan B also, if that doesn't work?
Seems to be what the question is
Got it.
asking, yes.
Okay. Well, our plan for unifying the campus is multifaceted, but I'll try and touch on a lot of the points. The direct outreach, obviously, making ASG more central in this issue just by interacting with the students involved more, I think will go a long way to doing that. I think if people feel that their voices are more heard, it will lessen some of the tension. Also, some of the initiatives we have to encourage collaboration between groups. Some of this will also obviously be put to task forces because, like I said, I believe that there are a lot of groups who should have a say in how to do this best, and it shouldn't just be ASG. And I think the best role of ASG is just to facilitate the interaction between the different groups that would be coming up with a potential solution to this. And I don't necessarily see that administration would be able to shut down direct outreach. I mean, maybe they could stop it from being mandated, but I don't think that's within the scope of their authority. And even then, they're not able to stop individual members from going to club events, from speaking to people, and we could just encourage them to do this even if we couldn't legislate it.
Yeah, we would have a better connection between ASG members and senators with club members. And that's if our plan of like our task force and the idea and the vision that we hold gets turned down. But thank you for the idea of making us think that way.
Can you repeat the question?
What new methods will you use to help unify the divided campus community? What will be your follow-up methods when administration shuts down a plan you had?
I want to speak to the underlying assumption in this question, which is that administration will shut down an initiative of ASG. In my experience in working and collaborating with administrators, there has been no ill will. Administration is not here to shut down the actions of students arbitrarily. I think the issue that this question speaks to is not one of question about issues being and initiatives being shut down. It's one about how we communicate why something didn't happen. A lot of the times when ASG or a student comes forward to administration with an idea and that idea doesn't happen and it's not feasible for some reason, there is a good reason behind that that just needs communicated. And I think what we actually want to improve here to unify that division is communicating why things don't happen or why things happen the way they do, and for the good reasons that are behind these decisions that you only really hear about behind closed doors. I think those factors in decision making need to be communicated more effectively and broader, which I think is the way that the new method that we should be using to unify the division.
We have concrete examples of what we're planning on doing with this. One of them being ASG should be present in all admitted student state and potential student stays. This to start outreaching to these students that are not even here on campus yet, but to start forming those collaborations with administrators in order to increase capacity of ASG within and without.
How will you advocate for communities that do not align with your personal beliefs?
Thank you for the question. I think Sam and I come from very different backgrounds. We've mentioned a couple of these, but we stand from very different perspectives within factors like culture, race, background, ethnicity, gender, and we think we're not the representative of everyone because everyone is different at the end of the day, but we clearly have a big broadening on what we represent as students.
It's not about who we are or who we advocate for. It's about who we empower to advocate for themselves, who we can help obtain the skills necessary to go forward themselves and feel confident and have the skills to communicate effectively the issues that they are facing, both to us, to other members of ASG, to administration, to faculty, in their personal lives. It is about the empowerment of the student, not about our beliefs. It is about what we can enable other students to achieve.
Thank you.
I would say, as a representative in general, it's not about my personal beliefs. It's about making sure that everyone's beliefs, everyone's opinions, voices, perspectives, etc., are heard and are part of the overall conversation about the important issues on campus. I know I basically come back to this for every question, but the increased outreach, I think, would give us much better perspective on what those beliefs are, what people want to see happen, more specifics of how they want to see things done, etc. And I think it's, just like I said, not really complicated. I mean, yes, there's a trend of representatives all across all forms of government, not necessarily including all beliefs, but it's essentially you just stay out of the way and let what your constituents want be heard.
I think it's important to note that everyone has differences, as Nicole said. Individually and personally, me and Kevin, through our 2 years of friendship, we have had many differences, and it's at the moment of realization of our common ground and what we believe in, even if it's very different, and that we come to an understanding of a new idea and perspective and vision, because we work together to communicate, and that's perhaps why we. Thank you. That's perhaps why we had a better friendship, is because we always ended up after every conversation having new perspectives and feels. So I don't think it's difficult to work with anyone that's from a different view if they're not trying to open like their mind and staying intransigent, unless that happens. But when we work together and we collaborate more and have a better amount of platform that the ASG can provide, then we can come to solutions. So that wouldn't be a problem. Thank you.
Thank you guys. How will you help communities that do not feel comfortable communicating with you due to your association with the Allegheny administration?
Well, that would require multiple different things. It would be a slow, difficult process, obviously, but we would need to basically regain the trust of the public. So I think part of that comes from the fact of people's negative perception of ASG, not just of the administration. And I think people being present in a lot more events from clubs, like silk events from various interest groups over time would help ASG's reputation. It would help them seem more trustworthy. And I think a lot of the negative reputation does come from the fact that ASG seems to be basically just a student extension of administration that has their own agenda, and that any outreach is window dressing, which I would not say is accurate at all. I think ASG does care about outreach, but I think increasing that greatly would help their reputation a lot and help people open up to ASG a lot more.
Me and Muffin Man both coming. Me and Kevin actually. Me and Kevin both coming from a student club that does not feel very extended by the ASG, or coming outside of the ASG student body. We have perspectives of how that could feel, and we have the idea of how we can create a better, larger, thank you, outlook by having more. Our whole deal is like communicating and having more events and clubs and more collaboration, and whether if it's a specific outreach, like the film department could work with the campus. And I've seen your newsreels and they're wonderful, and I think there's some more room for improvement, and you guys could work with the film department and make better newsreels. Not to say that it was, but other clubs like the ASG working with potential CPA members. Thank you.
Thank you. So our actions speak louder than our words right now, but what I can tell you is that there are Senate seats available, and there are forums available for students to raise their concerns. There are office hours for every single cabinet member and every single class to host students and hear those students. So I wouldn't see why that would be a problem, essentially.
I think part of the way that we address the issue of people not trusting to come to ASG because of their relations with administration is to do some of our work out in the open. And ASG often is in a place where they have to criticize or present alternative ideas to administrators. And oftentimes that happens where non-ASG students aren't in the room, or we keep kind of quiet about it because we don't want to make some of the dirty laundry known. And I think part of the way we address this issue is to be willing to call people out in a public way. I think there are issues that do deserve to be addressed publicly. in that doing that and standing up bravely and saying, no, we are taking a stance against this. We do think this is wrong. And we're not afraid to say that is how we start winning back people who feel spurned by ASG because of the way that ASG has historically protected administration.
Thank you. Are you going to work to unlearn harmful ideologies to best advocate for diverse communities on campus, or are you content with your current mindset and outlook on different communities?
I want to talk a little bit about my background. I'm one third Mexican, one third German, one third from Spain. And I've been part of several organizations that include different backgrounds, cultures, perspectives, religions. And all I've learned is to be flexible. You don't have to agree with someone to be able to understand that perspective and to advocate for someone that maybe has a different perspective that you do, but also deserves a voice and also deserves to be empowered to create change.
I think if there's one thing that Allegheny as an institution wants all of its students to take from this experience is the ability to understand other cultures and learn from them and change to better include everyone. The Allegheny College Statement of Community, as corny as it is when we bring it up every day, is an important thing. And it does say what I believe about representing and interacting with people of all cultures and beliefs.
Okay, sorry. Could you repeat the question again? I'm sorry.
Yes. Are you going to work to unlearn harmful ideologies to best advocate for diverse communities on campus, or are you content with your current mindset and outlook on different communities?
I don't think I'm content with my current state of being, and I will never be, because I'm always looking for spaces of where I can improve. I come from a background where I'm an ethnic minority group, indigenous group back in Nepal, and my father is an administrator as well, and he's always in the process of unlearning things and learning new things about everyone, like every day. And I think it's so important for this aspect of unlearning things, and that's why like I'm always reaching out to people of different cultures and languages and from very different backgrounds, and trying to work to see where we can relate to one another and find a common ground. And I say common ground so much, but it honestly is where you can find yourself in that person. And that's why I'm like a film major as well. Film, because I think it's so important to reflect you in oneself, in another self, and for them for vice versa. So Kevin?
Yeah, very similar to what Manasvi said. I agree. I'm definitely not content with my current state of mind regarding any harmful beliefs. And just in general, I think I always want to grow across the board in every area. But yes, I'm definitely going to examine myself, examine all my beliefs, and especially listen to a diverse group of people without judging, be open-minded, and to attempt to do it without any ego. See what they have to say, be honest with myself. What do I believe? How can I improve that? And just listen actively to other people. I think that's throughout every area that's important to a representative. You have to do these kind of things, and that applies absolutely to growing your personal beliefs to be better.
How would you ensure that campus dining options meet the diverse dietary needs of the student population?
So, as I'm aware, dining, food in general, is one of the most important issues on campus, as per the students, and ASG, I believe, agrees. They've been working on food security for a while. They've done great work with that already, so congratulate them on that. We want to pick up where they left off with that. To be honest, I don't entirely know the complex dynamics of why Aramark doesn't provide the food that's up to the standard of the students, but part of that would involve putting more pressure in whatever way is necessary on the people responsible, because the general consensus, as I've seen, is that a lot of the food here is substandard, and we have to be honest about that, and we have to be able to say publicly we believe that, and we're going to make a stand for that. And just another brief note, I believe that the structure that we're proposing would actually help. It would help accomplish that better by bringing more student feedback regarding the food and communicating it more efficiently.
For the director of the Airmark, who's present at Allegheny, every time I see him, I'm always giving him some notes like, "Hey, I just looked at my fruits the other day and they weren't clean; they were very dirty," and he never really realized that, or asking why they're not serving pineapples anymore and it's always canned. All the fruits are canned, and they are never thinking of these matter that we have, and I think it's important to build a direct communication between us through the student body, or find a way for the student body to which they already do, but is not very widely used, for a direct communication between Airmark and the student body. Thank you.
I am a member of ASG's dining committee. As such, I have been meeting with Aramark regularly. I have been meeting with administrators who do not work for Aramark as well. In that work, we have already made changes with Aramark. The swipes and kins that we recently implemented originated from student feedback. Students have had a voice in dining, and that voice will continue to be heard and innovated upon. My first week on campus, I met with former President Link, and I told her that there was no alternative milk in Brooks, because at the time there was not. And then within a week, that milk was there. There is so much potential for students to speak up and get their issues with dining addressed. It is about empowering students to know who to go to and when to go to them. Aramark held an a round table last semester, and there were 2 students who showed up when more than 10 RSVP'd. I think there is an issue of attendance and willingness to meet with people and provide productive feedback that has simply not yet been adequately encouraged by the student government or the administration, and that needs to be worked upon.
I'm sorry for pushing overtime, guys. We're going to try and squeeze one more question in. So how do you plan to create a campus culture that prioritizes mental health and reduces the stigma surrounding mental health issues?
I've already begun this work. It was one of the most important things to me when I stepped onto campus. My academic advisor was like, asked me a question one day. She was like, "You're on ASG. Are they doing anything with therapy dogs with the CPDC?" And I was like, "Not to my knowledge." And she said, "You could do that." And I said, "That's a good point. Yes, I totally could." And as such, you've probably seen by now the flyers that were just up for Monday, the last time the therapy dogs were here. But they've been over several other times this semester. As a result of work from the ASG Freshman Class Senate, the therapy dogs have been coming to provide that support for the students that has been lacking due to some of the tumultuous circumstances going on with the CPDC. I have also personally been investigating the online services that the CPDC has been using, and I think there is a lot of potential there for it to be useful for students, but I will continue to encourage in-person options for students.
There are also resources already on campus that students are not necessarily aware of, and that's why students don't necessarily use them as much as they should. We have in-person counseling. I know they've been having like issues with having slots for every single student on campus that requests it, but there are other forms of coping with this, including an app that the dean of students was working on, and we currently have now, which has online service for everyone that is enrolled as a student on campus.
First, we're going to obviously investigate what is the root of the problem with lack of access to the counseling service. That's a thing we've heard a decent amount of. The counseling service obviously does as much as they can, and we believe that in some ways they're overburdened. We're going to examine options of how we can get more resources for them. But on top of that, we are going to at least aim to send out a campus-wide mental health survey to assess the mental health of the entire student body. That'll guide how we proceed from there regarding mental health. And then beyond that, even, we are going to aim to not just treat the symptoms of mental health on campus. We're going to actually try to get at the root causes, which I believe some of them can't obviously be tackled, but I think some of it comes down to fundamental aspects of the student experience, like the way people interact with each other, sources of stress, potentially even poor diet, like relating to the food. There's numerous things that students experience every day that could be contributing to mental health problems, and we're going to try and tackle some of those with various task forces, including a cultural task force that we're going to create to try and create more positive interaction between people, because having a sense of community and a sense of connection is known to foster better mental health in general. And we'll even work with the psychology department and other departments potentially to create a campus-wide plan to improve mental health and improve the culture.
Most of what Kevin say, we resonate with one another, and I'd like to point out how the counseling department might not be representative of the entire student body and would feel more comfortable with people who kind of look like them.
I'm sorry, you're out of time.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, we'll be moving on to the second section of our Q&A session, where candidates will have an opportunity to ask each other questions, while also having an opportunity to get questions from the moderator expanding upon their platform points. At this time,
You said while opening that you would not have had a voice to speak, yet you are both juniors, and that junior senate has 2 empty seats on it. Do you not consider being a senator a way to have a voice? And what reasons have you not volunteered for that position?
I absolutely consider it a way to be a voice, but I figured it would be a better voice to be student body president than a senator. But if that doesn't work, sure, I will consider that.
I came in here, I matriculated during 2020, so that was during the COVID epidemic. So I was completely online from Kathmandu. So I came here during my sophomore year. So that was my first year. And so by the time that I came here, I did not know anything because I did not go through the formal access, the process of the procedure, the regular procedure of knowing who is who or what is what. So I did not know about ASG until I initiated a conversation with the previous president, Noah. So I did not know about student body or anything. I had no conversations with them. I did not know about anything until like the later semester of my sophomore year. Thank you.
Just a brief thing too. Yeah, similar to that, even though we're personally aware of that, I think the issue is broader. I'm sure a lot of people are not aware of that. I think there's a general problem with the distribution of information, and there are openings, but people just aren't aware. There are opportunities, like you've been saying, for people to voice their concerns, but a lot of people just don't know how they can do that. And that's, I think, part of the root of the problem.
So that's why I feel like there's so many international students who might not initiate, or people from here that, oh, is this time 2 as well? Oh. Who, sorry? Oh, and that's why I say that I would not have had a voice if I had not been initiated by myself. So thank you.
And some students may not want to initiate, and it would be better if someone approached them more directly as well.
That's our culture task force.
Just for clarification in this section, you guys both have the opportunity to present a question to the opposing ticket, and then you will have 2 minutes to respond, just with the last section too. So now it's your turn to present a question to them if you.
Yeah, so I'd like some clarification on a previous statement from Sam, and it was about communication. I don't remember the exact wording of the question, but essentially it was students already have the opportunity to reach out to ASG. Your answer to a question was students need to be able to reach out to ASG and voice their concerns. They already have that opportunity. Do you think that what's in place now, allowing students to reach out to ASG, is sufficient, or is there something on top of that that you'd like to implement?
I do not think the onus of reaching out bears entirely upon individual students. I do believe ASG has an obligation to encourage students and provide opportunities for them to make their voice heard. I've already discussed ways I want that to happen, such as open tables hosted in collaboration with ASG and administrators, where multiple students may come forth, and it would be open to the community to come and discuss the issues they face. I also believe that it is always easier to come forth with issues with the buddy system, and communicating both to ASG and to ASG cabinet in particular and administrators is easier when you have somebody with you. My vision for that is if you are uncomfortable coming forward to cabinet, you could reach out to a senator who is more likely more accessible to you as an individual because they are of your class year for sure. You could then reach out to them, and then together you could go forth to talk to a cabinet member or an administrator and have better opportunities for communication privately through that. I also believe in addressing the issue of constituent comments for GA nearly always being completely silent. I think creating a culture and raising awareness of the timing and location of GA so more people will come and speak about issues that they care about and ask questions that they need to know the answer about is really important, and that's something I want to focus on. Thank you.
You have the opportunity to ask another one. Yeah, one more each.
So regarding your platform, I was reading about it, and in the safety section, you mentioned that you will create a more friendly route to Ravine. Can you please expand on how you're gonna do that? And the next point within the safety section is you're saying that you're gonna have better accessibility for disability services. And as an example of it, you have that you're going to have golf cart rides around campus. Can you please elaborate on how that's going to be implemented due to our difficult weather that we have here? But also, that's not the only problem that people have when it comes to disability services, not only walking from one building to another, but also their housing and other services like elevators and ramps for disabilities. And to add on to that, I also want to ask about what about disabilities that are not necessarily shown, if that makes sense? How are you gonna plan on working with that?
I think I used to live in Ravine, actually, and I used to be an RA as well. And then the idea of like me going to Ravine and then Edwards, and then Crawford alone at night at 2 a.m. in the morning was just like, whoa, I'm not doing that. And I would call public safety all the time. So I think, and you're right about the weather. Maybe we did not think that as well as through, but we wanted to make it more brighter and more active and have a public safety officer or just a car nearby. The idea of having services and more security and for sorry, what was your question again?
About the golf cart rides?
No,
and-
the next one. Could you just repeat?
Oh, about the disability services,
Yes.
but not necessarily for shown disabilities.
Okay. I think the way that Allegheny is built did not think about disability services at all. Most of the buildings that we have do not make sense disability wise. They don't, like Quigley, for example, or any other building except Vukovic, or the way to get to Vukovic is also kind of shaky. So being that said, the only way to work more on it is to provide more infrastructure, and I'm not really sure about how we could like fit the infrastructure bill, but
Yeah, basically the golf carts, that was something we threw out as something that could be done quickly. It wouldn't obviously be a comprehensive fix. We just thought there's golf carts around. That's an opportunity. We can do something with them. The more pressing problems, as you mentioned, and also you mentioned, the buildings just aren't really set up. There are disabilities you can't see, etc. Those would have to be done through the administration and through disability services, and our role would just be to push more firmly for that to be done. ASG doesn't have the resources to do that, but they do have the ability to encourage that to be a priority of administration and of disability services.
You guys have the opportunity for one more question to the other.
I think we're good.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
So we're now opening the floor to questions from the audience. Abby will be around with a microphone to anyone who has a question. Candidates, you will each have 2 minutes to respond. If a question is directed to a specific ticket, I'm going to give that ticket the first chance to respond. The other ticket, you will have a chance to respond as well. You don't have to take it if that question is more specialized to the other ticket.
For any audience members that have questions, could you line up down here?
You can just like.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't project, so you'll just have to.
I got you. Yeah, so I just wanted to ask a simple question. I mean, presidency means a lot to people, so I just wanted to ask initially, what does presidency mean to you, especially an Allegheny president? How would you demonstrate? You guys talked about a lot about your cultural backgrounds, your personal lives and everything like that. But as a formal political president on campus, how would you demonstrate your formalities, your just like, what does the president mean to you?
So since I stepped foot in Allegheny, I saw ASG as an opportunity for me to grow and learn and also empower people. So for me to be a president would mean a lot. My values and the person that I am on campus, it is a small campus. We all mostly know each other. So I would say my actions speak louder than my words are going to do. But also just being around for students, being in different areas, excelling in different areas, because I think it's very important to be the figure for people and support people at the end of the day. So that's what the presidency would mean for me.
I suppose in my case, the question is, what does vice presidency mean to you? And to me, it's about loving the act of service. I have found no greater joy than in planning the programs that I have worked to plan, both professionally and through ASG. It is the commitment to helping others and enabling other people to do things that they are passionate about and address issues that they care about that drives me to be here before you tonight. It is my love for everyone here at Allegheny and in the world abroad that makes me want to be this.
I think the role of presidency at Allegheny would be an enormous responsibility. It'd be a lot of work, but it would be rewarding because it would be an opportunity for me to help extend the positive experiences I've had here to everyone else. It would be, I see it as an opportunity to lead, not in terms of directing people, guiding people, telling people what to do, but as someone who serves and someone who essentially is the most visible and collects the most whatever you want to call it, voices, feedback, concerns, anything anyone wants to express from the students, the person who is just there for everyone to talk to, for someone to see that there's someone listening and someone who has their interests at heart. And it's about trying your best to listen and to represent everyone you can.
Along the similar lines, thank you for the question. Being a vice president would mean that you're a voice for an amalgam of things and people, and you're representing a lot of people from administrations to the clubs, vice versa, or from the clubs to individuals. And I'd like to make individual connections, and I think that's where I grow best. To talk to people randomly anywhere and be able to be relied upon, and being able to build communication and just shedding light on things that are important. Thank you.
Hi. This question is for Kevin and Manosfi. I was wondering, what steps have you taken to gain kind of an understanding of the scope and the role of ASG in the student community, and how has that impacted your kind of idea for restructuring and creating new task forces?
Well, I have, obviously, there's an enormous amount of intricacies that go into ASG, and I haven't learned all of them yet. I studied the Constitution and bylaws as well as the election rules to the best of my ability. Tried to learn as much as I could about that. But I think a lot of what I learned came from talking to individual students and understanding what I think is close to the general student body's perception of ASG. And I think understanding not just how ASG works in theory, but how it's actually working and what students see happening and what they don't see happening, how they feel about it, how they're involved, is potentially the most important part of how ASG actually functions. And the way I approached campaigning was to talk to as many students as I could. Obviously, I couldn't talk to everyone because there's a lot of students and I only had so much time, but I made it a point to attend as many clubs as I could, ask everyone that I saw for a long time for feedback and collect all of that. And it was a lot of it was about not just issues on campus, but their perception of ASG. So we've got a good portfolio of feedback about how students think ASG is working, what they think it's doing, and that affects how it actually works.
Are we out of time or?
Hello. My question is for both of you guys, both candidates. I just want y'all to speak on your ASG or other leadership experience and how this leadership experience has shaped you as a leader, and also to explain one ASG process as you understand it, whether it's finance requests or parliamentary procedure or something like that.
So thank you for the question. To the first part of the question, I'm a current RA in Brooks. I was the vice president of the international club. I was a TA for Spanish and German my freshman year. And now, well, I was a Senate last year for ASG for my class, and now I'm the president of the class of 2025. Those are some of the roles I've taken here so far, and I am excited to take some more because when I got here, I was just looking at all the positions that people were holding and the leadership that they were having, and I'm just very excited about that. One of my main pillars being communication, diversity, empathy, and just being there for people and proving that with my experiences so far in the past 2 years and forging that with my experiences yet to come.
So in this year, I've held the position of freshman class president, a TA for the philosophy department, and the head intern for the Allegheny Enrichment Program. The enrichment program is something I participated in myself when I was a middle schooler. So I've had this delightful experience of being in charge of the very middle schoolers that I used to be here on this campus. And that experience has gotten me really thinking about what the significance and legacy of this campus can be for an individual, and for Meadville at large. And I think this has just taught me a lot about what it means to have an image both within and outside of the college community. My role is facing hundreds of students as middle schoolers, and when they go back to the school, they represent the work that I'm doing there. And I think that authority has really taught me a lot.
Sorry, could you ask the question again?
So I just want y'all to speak to your ASG and or other leadership experiences and how they've shaped you, and also to explain an ASG process as how you understand it, whether it's financial, committee, anything like that, parliamentary.
Me and Kevin both, I can speak for you. We haven't been in the ASU government, but for my external experiences and positions of leadership was that of being student council from in high school, back in Nepal, and then being a national radio host for a national radio. I held 3 weekly programs, and I would interview guests. I would have live conversations with people throughout Nepal, and it was very important for a step to take for me, especially because I was 18 only, and I worked there till I was 20. So I think it was important. It's embedded to how I understand other people as well, because not only did I get to talk to people from Kathmandu, which is the capital, but I got to talk to people from all over rural Nepal, which they have very diverse experiences, and they would come to me and the show to trust what they have experienced and what song they liked. So I think leadership isn't only about having a authoritative power, but it's more about being and finding a common ground and being able to mitigate things. And the process of which people gain an understanding, a wider vision of what other people's visions are and how to collaborate with one another. And so your second question was about the financing structure?
Just any ASG process as you understand.
Well, Ming is right there, our treasurer for A5, and he emailed a month ago to ASG Finance for the treasurer to support for our bill, for an event that we're doing for this week that we wanted to do but had to be shifted for next week because it wasn't being processed and there hasn't been an email that has been sent back. So whether I'm not the treasurer, and I don't know who the treasurer is at all, to be frankly honest, but the idea is that we have more people for that.
I'm sorry, everyone else. If you have questions in the audience, we're running out of time, so we're going to move on to closing remarks at this point. Do you want to close first? Okay. All right, you guys are up first.
Hello, everyone. We would like to thank you for your time and thank you for this opportunity and platform. This is the last that we're ever going to have, and we would like to thank you all sincerely
Our vision is, even though, well, of course we want to win, everybody wants to win, but even if we're not, we want to be grateful for this platform that we have and coming outside of ASG and providing a new discourse and a new outlook on how we perceive things, maybe as an international or as a student worker, or anything. And yeah, it was a privilege to be amongst the stage with Nicole and thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, I also want to thank everyone for being here. Thank you, Nicole and Sam. Thank you, ASG. Thank you, everyone who came. Everyone who provided us with feedback. Most importantly, I'd just like to touch on a little bit to reiterate my perspective on some of this, why I'm running. It was going to be in the leadership thing, but Manasvi talked the whole time. But it actually ties in perfectly to what I was going to say to close. I don't personally see leading as about authority necessarily. For a long time, I didn't really want any positions of power because I always thought, well, maybe someone else would be better equipped to do it, and maybe they would, and that's going to be open to a vote. The reason I'm here is I truly believe in the ideas of my platform. I think they have a great potential to benefit college. I think that, yeah, I was probably breathing a little too heavy there. Thank you. Basically, I'm running because I believe in the things I'm saying wholeheartedly. I think if no one else will bring them up, then I will gladly do that. I'll let the ideas speak for themselves, and I will actively listen to everyone if elected and make sure that everyone involved, everyone here, everyone out there, everyone on this campus, their voices are heard to a greater level than's ever happened before. Thank you.
To close, Kevin and Manasvi, thank you for engaging in a thoughtful debate this evening. To Roman and Abby, thank you for moderating tonight. And to everyone in attendance, thank you as well. By taking the time to watch the debate, you've chosen to be an active part of strengthening our shared governance. This is eternally important. My hope is that this is not the end of a conversation, rather that this is only the beginning. If elected, Nicole and I want to empower students to make their voices heard within ASG and without. In order for this to happen, we need to hear from you and your diverse backgrounds and experiences. We are always open to discussion on what can be done differently, because I recognize that this collaboration is what makes our campus strong. Our platform is not a list of promises and goals. It is the embodiment of our commitment to our fellow students and our commitment to the well-being and the future of our campus community.
The ideas we've outlined here tonight are meant to build upon the work already being done by ASG and our other campus and community partners. This year has been one of change, a turnover of college administration, and the recovery of our community from the COVID-19 pandemic. In this time, we want to echo President Ron Paul's commitment to this holistic approach of the success of our fellow students. We do this with a recognition that this approach must take into consideration the breadth of experiences of the individuals, class years, and cultural backgrounds that make up Allegheny College. To the first-year students, we want you to feel empowered and accepted within this community. I hope we can share our love for this education in and out of the classroom. To the sophomores, we want you to feel supported in your transition to upperclassmen status. I hope we can share our desire for meaningful change. To the juniors, we want you to be confident in what you take with you and from your Allegheny experience. I hope we can share our belief in the future of our students and college. To our seniors, we want to provide confidence that the experience of those who come after you has been made better through your participation. I expect you will all leave this debate with a stronger idea of the platform and capabilities of both candidate tickets. Tonight, Sam and I have presented you with a platform of why we think you should support us. But we also have presented a testament of who we are as people, friends, and students. It is our greatest desire to make sure that every student feels as if they can make their voice heard. It is only through the empowerment of every voice that we can accomplish more together. Thank you.
And this will conclude our presidential debate for tonight, so thank you all for coming out.
Yeah.
Before you all head out, just a little reminder, the voting period will open on March 22nd to the 24th through Google Form, and we will be sharing that through Instagram as well as the ASG website, etc., as well as on my Alabine page. Thank you all for joining, and hope you all have a great night.
And don't forget to vote!
Yeah.